Okay, welcome back to the book 2, Signs and Coincidences from God. We are now in part 25, and we're going to get right into it here with the entry June 27, 2007. This one is going to sound very prophetic, and I have no idea what the outcome is going to be as of right now. I received a phone call at work from a coworker of mine, another sergeant, who usually never calls me, but was told to call me because of a coincidence that happened at work on his unit. He said that they had moved an inmate into his unit, and they moved the inmate into room 213, bed 8. When they did that, the inmate replied, "I was over in another unit, and they also put me in 213, bed 8 over there." I told him that this definitely was a coincidence, but that the inmate was the one it happened to, and that the inmate really needed to keep his eyes open for more or to see what this means to him. But I thanked my coworker for telling me this, but I did not think that this had anything to do with me and my coincidences at all. An hour later, another coworker of mine, another sergeant, also named James, the first one was Sergeant Jim, this one too, called me and said that he had been experiencing a coincidence and that his entire unit count was in multiples of 12. There were 96 on the unit, 12 in the kitchen, 36 in industry, totaling 144. 8 dozen plus 1 dozen plus 3 dozen equals 12 dozen. He said that he doesn't think that his count has ever turned out like that before. I told him that this might be just something that he needs to be aware of, and that for the rest of the day and for a little while after this to be very sensitive to this number 12. Be on the lookout and see what becomes of it. Again, I did not think that this meant something for me. But again, as in the last phone call, this meant something to the person that it happened to. But see, something I'm telling people now. So this happens. Two sergeants both call me and tell me about coincidences within an hour apart. It's like, okay, now it's including me. I went home after work, and a few hours later, I thought about the two coincidences of two people calling me about their coincidences. And I kind of got that dumb look on my face and went, oh wow, duh. That one about hit me in the face and I didn't even see it. I thought all along that those coincidences that they were calling me about were for them and them alone. Laughing out loud, I am telling them to be aware, be on the lookout, and I about miss my own coincidence. A coincidence, nonetheless, of two people calling me about none other than coincidences. Haha, wow. But now go figure this. Two sergeants call me. They hardly ever call me to chat about anything. But today they were each calling me about a coincidence that happened to them in their unit because they know that I am into coincidences big time. I attribute every one of all these coincidences to God, and that they are just random and that they are just random events happening by chance. They couldn't be. Not after this many of them. No way, Jose. Poor Jose, always getting told no. I'm just messing around there. It's just an expression. No way, Jose. So poor Jose. So putting the two coincidences together and the fact that they had been giving to me using other people, I am taking that this coincidence is not for me and for me alone, but that it is for others and that I should tell others about this. Here's the hard part though. I am not sure what it means, and I am not sure what I am interpreting, if or that I am interpreting it correctly. But I have seen no other way to interpret it as of yet, and so I will let you in on what I think and what I know at this point, and then we will see from there. Here we go. The inmate's room was 213, bed 8, or we could write it like this, 21308. The next thing was 12, everything about the unit count was of 12. So we could say noon. And putting the two together, we have 213:08 at 12 noon. Or something with a 12 or 12 of something on 213:08. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. What will happen on 213:08? We can only wait and see. It could be good. It could be bad. I just know that this sign means something and involved others. So I am to share it. I had something like this happen one other time, but it happened to me and me alone, and I was not to share it. This is just, wow, time will only tell, and did I even interpret this sign correctly? July 15th, 2007. So, yeah, in like another couple weeks. Look at the jump here, July 15th all the way to February. There's like a 6 month. No signs between there and there. My wife was baptized today. Praise God. Wow, patience really pays off. On this day, the pastor, the same pastor who baptized me also, baptized two couples at the same time. And he said right after he did that it was the first time he had ever baptized two people at the exact same time. But later he did it again because another couple came forward and was also baptized together at the same time. This is a significant point in someone's walk with Christ, and it is very memorable. And to have this occurrence of the two twos happen during this event is quite the sign. So my wife got baptized, but on the day she got baptized, that pastor baptized two people at once and then two people at once. That was kind of neat. That's why I wrote it down. But I got my wife got baptized that day. So she wasn't a believer at first, but she came to God through all the stuff that was happening to me. And praise God. Praise God. Yeah, God did a great thing in her life and our marriage, and God's just been wonderful in our marriage. So, yeah, okay, February 6th. So now look at that. We jumped from July to February. Look at no other coincidences. See, they're spacing out a little farther now. I had purchased some hamburger from a farmer friend of mine as he wanted to sell off 350 pounds of hamburger, and he needed to sell it or he would have to ship the cow to the stockyard. I made some calls to friends at church and asked them if they wanted to buy some burger. A few families agreed, and so I told the farmer friend of mine to go ahead and butcher the cow and that we would buy up all the burger. We delivered the burger to the families, and at one of the families' house, the C family, we went inside for a very nice visit, and I had some time to share with them about the cross along the 93rd and 39th latitude line. I also told them about the amazing coincidences I had bowling, where I bowled the perfect game on the 39th, a game of the season, and had two like scores on the 39th and 93rd of that season as well, matching the dollar amounts in my pocket. They were pretty amazed, and they even said a really nice prayer over what I had told and shared with them. The very next house we went to, the R family, we had told them we were going to be going to the J family next, and as they were having some rough financial times, and that we were going to bring them out some burger, the burger was packaged in 1.5 pound packs. We told them that we were giving the J family 11 packages. The R family then said, well, we had planned on giving them 25 pounds also. I thought, wow, cool. I then said that since we were going that way, would they like to bring their gift of burger out to the J family also? And they said, yeah, that would be great. So they asked how much would make 25 pounds. And then I said that 16 packages would make 24 pounds, which would be close. So as he grabbed the packages of burger and was holding them in his arms, he could only hold 15, and then he said, well, this will have to do. I can't hold anymore. So he walked over to my truck and added their 15 packages to our 11. We thanked them for their purchase and their generosity and headed to the J family home. We arrived and added their 15 packages to our 11. We thanked them for the purchase and wrong line. We arrived and gave them the burger, and then as I was giving them the burger, it hit me. Here we had 39 pounds of 93% lean burger to give to them. And a can of coconut oil from the C family. Now, when we had told the C family that we were going out to the J family's home to give them some burger, they thought about also giving them some burger also, but then decided against it and remembered about talking to them about coconut oil, which worked out because if they had donated some burger, then there wouldn't have been the 39 pounds. So there we have it. Another amazing coincidence with the 39 and 93, confirming the sign of the cross over the United States. February 13th, 2008. Here's that thing from before. On this day, I am in tuned to looking for a significant thing happening with the number 12. A few things happened that day, but I didn't see the significance of them or it yet. I read a verse in my Bible that day which was Luke 6:13. This verse talks about Jesus out of the disciples he had. Hundreds or thousands, we don't know exactly, but out of these he picked 12 to be his apostles. I went home, and later that evening my wife asked me who had won the safety prizes that were given away in the drawing at work. The safety officer at work was given 12 very nice prizes to give away at work in a drawing. Our facility had gone 220,000 hours without a lost time accident. So, in honor of this accomplishment, the safety officer was given permission to have this drawing and give away these prizes. There were 12 prizes, and 12 people were chosen to receive them. And now get this, James, who had the coincidence of the 12s, was one of the 12 chosen. I called him up the next day and reminded him of the 2:13:08. And he then went, "Oh, yeah." I said, "Well, Jim, you were one of the 12 chosen to receive the awards yesterday. In 18 years, the safety officer has never, ever been allowed to do such a thing before." This was not an ordinary thing that was done in giving out these prizes. I read to Jim the verse in Luke 6:13. And then Jim told me his mother named him after the Apostle James. There are in fact 2 apostles named James. Both of my phone calls about the coincidences were from James. I truly believe this to be a calling for Jim, as I and a few others have prayed for him. God has now tapped him on the shoulder with this coincidence, and I pray that Jim will eventually see his own calling as apostolic. Well, Jim has since retired and moved on, and I haven't heard from Jim in a long time, so I just pray that God's got his hand on him. That night, a weird coincidence happened in that the TV show Wheel of Fortune played the exact same broadcast from the night before. My wife told me this because all of the puzzles were the same and she knew all of the answers. This was a mistake in the scheduling of the TV station airing this taping of the show twice in a row for sure. The last time something like this happened to me when I received the coincidence in the paper with the mistake of the 2 identical jumble puzzles. So the solution to the final Wheel of Fortune puzzle was this: a shaved head. This meant nothing to me except that the very next show was Deal or No Deal, starring Howie Mandel, who also, by the way, stars in the movie Tribulation with Gary Busey. On this show, Howie Mandel, who recently, by the way, had completely shaved his head, was trying to give away $1 million. And they were having a special set of rules because no one had won the $1 million prize as of yet. And so this special was going on, and they were adding an extra $1 million case for each new contestant. This day there were 12 $1 million cases. Why and what this means, or how this affects or means anything, I do not know yet. But it was another occurrence of 12 that was very, very rare. But the last time a mistake was made with the two identical puzzles, something happened later. This was odd to have the same show air 2 nights in a row, and was just a flat out mistake. And to have it say a shaved head, and the next show has a guy with a shaved head, and then the specificness of the 12 cases on a day when I am looking for significant occurrences of 12s, well, if you have been following along, this is amazing. But just another day in God's signs and wonders. What it means, though, maybe we will find out later. So yeah, I don't know if the shaved head double puzzle thing led me to Howie, which the rarity of the 12 cases, but I think the 12, having Jim being one of the winners, and it was the two Jameses, I think that was it. This here seemed like a different thing, a shaved head, and I don't know how he was in the Tribulation movie, and so that could, you know, point to that. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what that meant. I don't know. Maybe later it'll come to me or something else will come up, but yeah, I'm not sure. March 1st, 2008. My wife and I were discussing this week as to whether or not to get some passports. I wasn't too sure about it. I was, however, thinking about it a few days later and had asked my wife how long passports were good for. She then told me that she thought, but was not for sure, but that she thought that they were good for 5 years. So I was thinking at my workstation about how, if we did get a passport this year, that they would expire in year 13 and again in year 18, and so on and so on. Well, just as I was thinking 13, 18, I looked up at the security cameras where I work, and the time was 13:18, because it's military time at the prison. I thought, wow, cool. But then the phone rang 2 seconds later, and it was the truck gate. They called me and told me that trailer had left, and to tell me that to log the trailer out. That the trailer and to tell me to log out trailer number 1318. I just stood there on the phone thinking, wow, 8 exclamation points, because really? No doubt my wife and I will be getting our passports. You have to be kidding me. How cool is that? What are the odds? Now get this. This is March 1st, 2008. May 9th through the 11th. My wife and I headed out to our trip to California to visit her brother, his wife, and their new baby. But it was also a perfect opportunity to stop by 2 more points on the cross over the United States. So as we headed out to our first stop in Colorado, Friday after work, we stopped and had dinner. After eating, my wife looked at the bill and then told me to look at it and to take notice of the waitress's name. I looked and her name was Grace. I thought that could be interesting. As we headed out again and down into Iowa, my wife asked if we could stop at the Dutch windmill that they were advertising along the interstate. Sure, I guess. Why not? This took us 6 miles out of the way, but we wanted to stop and do some things along the way. As we arrived to the Dutch windmill on Saturday morning, we entered the gift shop and had a look around. I noticed that there was some Christian music playing on the radio, and so I made a comment to the young lady working at the gift shop by saying that I liked the radio station that she was listening to. She then commented that it was the radio station from her school. She then said, "I go to Grace." I then thought, there seems to be a theme going on here. I then looked at my wife and we both kind of knew something was up. We headed out and drove all night toward Grand Junction, Colorado. About 100 miles from there, I was getting really tired and wanted to get a room and sleep. We checked out two we checked out two motels, and they either charged too much or they didn't look right. Something was just not right about staying there, and so we left. I drove another 50 miles and stopped again to look for a place to stay. I was now very, very tired and really needed sleep. We pulled into a motel that we thought would give us a decent price because we had stayed at one the night before. A nationwide chain you would think would have similar pricing, but after dragging our luggage into the lobby and asking the price for a room for the night, it was double what we had paid the night before. Wow. Okay. After we grabbed the luggage, threw it back into the car and started driving again, good thing was that it got my adrenaline going and, and I was not sleepy anymore. I also began to figure out that God must have wanted me to spend the night in the town where the church was to be located. So I'm heading to California. I'm looking for this church. And so we drove the next 50 miles and pulled into a hotel parking lot. I inquired within, and there were no vacancies. Now, here's kind of what I don't think I elaborated on. When I'm looking at the cross, I found this point on the cross, and we got to this point on the cross, and there was like nothing there. I mean, there was no. I was like, why did I think? Well, that was on the point, but it's like I gotta find a church near around here. So the nearest town to the 39th latitude line to this point in Colorado was you had to go north a little bit to a town called Grand Junction. Otherwise, down a little bit where the exact 39th runs into, there's just nothing there. I mean, literally, there was nothing there. So, if I've got to contact a church, so we go up to Grand Junction. So that kind of almost sounds prophetic. Grand Junction, Colorado. So we get all the way into Grand Junction, Colorado. Uh, let's see. Yeah, I inquired. The hotel parking lot. I inquired within, and there were no vacancies. If my wife were having a child, I would have asked for a room in the back parking lot shed, knowing what Mary and Joseph had to go through. Just kidding. But I asked the man at the counter if he knew of any more motels in the area, and he said, yeah, just go 2 blocks over and there's a motel called the Two Rivers Inn. Cha-ching! Thank you very much. I went over there and they had a room and at a reasonable price. We brought our stuff in and settled in for the night. Finally, I then told my wife that I bet I would find a church with the name Grace in it, and that is what I needed to look for. So conveniently, the motel room just happened to have a local phone book in it. During our entire trip of staying at about 7 motels, only this one had a phone book in it. I opened the book I opened the phone book to the churches section, and there on the main first page of that section stood out a separate ad for Grace Point Church. I showed it to my wife, and we were both thinking, that's it. It has to be, praise God, one of the points on the cross. It had Grace and Point as we were looking for another point on the cross, and I am in a motel called the Two Rivers Inn. Oh, yeah, definitely. That's it. Now, what was interesting, I'm probably going to double read this, but had I stayed at any one of them other motels that I was really tired at, if I would have stayed there, I wouldn't have been able to find that phone book. And it was so far away, it wouldn't have been a phone book from that area. So we slept well and woke up and headed out. I took my wife to breakfast, and we asked for directions from a police officer for two things. Okay, I'm back. I gotta Another phone call. This is kind of crazy. Coincidence within a coincidence. I drive cars now. I'm retired, and I drive cars for two places. One's a car rental place, and another's an auction, a car auction place. And at both places, um, the lady who works at the counter is named Nicole. I was like, yeah, that's kind of crazy. So it was Nicole. But I just got a call a little bit ago from the auction place to drive to Michigan, and that's tomorrow. I live in Minnesota, so it's a long trip to Michigan. I just got a call from Nicole from Avis, the car rental place. Do you want to go and do a drive to Michigan? I'm like, okay, got a little question thing there in Michigan, but that's a longer run into Michigan, and I've got a meeting tomorrow night, so I'm not going to be able to take that one. But there's another trip on Sunday to International Falls, and I might do that one. So anyway, oh, interesting. So back up, we slept well, woke up. I took my wife to breakfast, and we asked directions from the police officer for two things. A, where's the best place to get a great breakfast on Mother's Day? And then directions to Grace Point Church. Here's another thing to ponder. Had I not stayed at the Two Rivers Inn, I would not have seen the ad for Grace Point Church in the phone book. I would have eaten breakfast in some other town, and now here's the big time sign. When we arrived at the street that Grace Point Church was on, our odometer reading for the entire trip was, get this, 1,318 miles. Remember the 1318 that I just had the coincidence from at work? 1318, 1318? Getting to this church, 1,318 miles. Coincidence? No. Confirmation that you're at the right place? Oh, yes. Do you remember what happened to me 2 months ago with the 1318 and getting our passports? Yowza. My wife and I both just looked at each other with great expectations. We went in and met a nice older woman who spoke to us about the church, and we spoke to her about the cross and the signs and why we were there and that we had a message for their church. Their service was about to start, and about 30 to 40 people came in. A woman came in and sat in front of us. Her name was Grace. I kid you not. This church sat about 200 people, but only 30 to 40 were there, meaning there were many, many empty seats to choose from. But why and how do you think this lady named Grace was introduced to us and just happened to sit right in front of us? It is and was 100% confirmation. The pastor preached a sermon about the dry bones in the book of Ezekiel, and then made a statement during the sermon that about floored my wife and I. He said that something would happen in this church and that the entire world would know about it. When he said that, my wife and I both looked at each other, and I think we both gulped. How many times have you heard of any pastor making that kind of claim? Well, after the service, I spoke with the pastor and told him the message of their church being a part of this cross over the United States with 6 other churches. I told him that they were the 4th church that I have contacted. The pastor then told me that he had always liked the number 4. It was his favorite number since he was a kid, but he really never knew why he liked it. He also then told me that he had thought something big was going to happen with their church also, but not inside this building. I then told him no, that he would most definitely need to find some land or a farmer somewhere that would allow them to use the land for a large gathering, maybe 500 acres or more. I told him I did not know when this would all happen and when this would all begin, but to just start praying about it and to get ready. When God decides to move, word will spread and the people will come. And they will come from many miles away to these 7 points on the cross. On to the next point on the cross, California. Well, I just got to let you know that while I'm saying this, I wasn't really at the time there were 7 points, but now God has shown me a total. There's 9. See, originally it was 1, 2, 3, 2 this way and 2 this way for 7, but then God confirmed me there's one more above, one more down. So there's the center, 2 this way, 2 this way, 2 this way, 2 this way, 9 total. I'm going to go ahead and stop this one right now. I got a couple of interruptions going on, and we got through it. It's an amazing thing. We found this church, Grace Point Church, oh, and here's the thing that he didn't say that I didn't get in here. They had just changed their name. This church just had a split. This church just had a split. So they renamed the church. Had I stayed at any one of them other hotels or another hotel with an old phone book, I wouldn't have been led to that church because the old phone book would have had their old name in it. I needed to stay at that hotel with the new phone book because only the new phone book recently just got published with the new name of this church. How amazing is that? That's why I couldn't stay at any of them other hotels. That's why the other one was booked up. I mean, it was just a divine appointment. God was just confirming this is the point on the cross. And this is the church that I wanted you to contact to tell about this cross. Just amazing, guys. Just amazing. So, hey, God bless you all. Come back. I think that was part 25. We're going to go into part 26 next. Stay tuned. More amazing stuff when this cross gets all confirmed. Oh, it's just amazing. God bless. Take care.